you very much. And I am very glad to be here this evening because I think that the most important thing that we can do to start with is to encourage more debate and participation. Actually, it's really fortunate that Doreen came tonight because she lent me her book some months ago. And this is a good opportunity for me to give it back to her because otherwise it might not have made its way back to this. No, I'm sorry David's not here. He would have added another angle to the whole experience. But in any case, this was good. And I think that one of the things that I took from Doreen's book about Alberta politics is that over the last 4 decades, there's been a gradual erosion of the willingness to have a political debate. I've lived in a lot of provinces, 6 in fact, and in some provinces political debate is kind of an amusement. It's something that you do over the dinner table. It's something that you do when you go out to the pub at night. You talk about politics. You talk about what's important to you. You're actually able to still speak to that person after you leave the pub. Whereas coming here in 1980, as I did, it was actually kind of a social disease to say that you voted any other way than conservative. And I think this is incredibly anti-democratic. And I think this is something that we as concerned citizens should be pushing back against all the time. That talking about politics is good for the government and it's good for Canadians. So I'm hoping, I'm not going to come to a definitive conclusion in what I say tonight, although I have a sort of opinion, but I think the most important thing to do is to get people talking about how we're going to defeat this poor excuse for a government that we have. There's no doubt we have a problem. Part of the title was, are more parties the solution to the problem? Well, for sure we know we have a problem. Anybody who's been following the news for the last few days alone has seen the incredible malfeasance and incompetence of this government. So I think that what we need to do as progressives, and I'm just assuming that most people here are progressives tonight, is to keep our eye on the ball. And to me, the ball is not whether I have a brand of this party or that party somewhere on my anatomy. But the ball is getting rid of this government and getting a progressive government into place that actually cares about all the citizens and not just the ones who have bought a voice. Now, Doreen's already alluded to some of the problems with our electoral system here, not the least of which is that it's a first past the post and we always have 5 or 6 or 7 candidates running, so it doesn't work very well. But I'm not sure if you mentioned about electoral financing, which is the most disgraceful electoral financing in the country here. And these things will never change as long as the Conservatives are in power, or perhaps not as long as any one party is in power. Because it's not to the party in power's advantage to change those things. I mean, it's much better for the party in power to allow whoever their proponents are to give them loads of money so they can buy the kind of legislation that they want. Or to have first past the post because the party in power usually has the advantage. It must have the advantage because this government that's been acting incompetently for quite a number of years now keeps getting re-elected. So, in fact, a minority government wouldn't be a bad thing because minority governments in this country have actually given us quite a few good things like public health care, employment insurance, the Canada Pension Plan, and so on. So minority government, although the Conservatives would have you believe that it's an anathema and an absolutely useless and incompetent organization, in fact has brought us some very good things. And it might bring us electoral reform, and it might bring us electoral financing reform, both of which would be very good for democracy. So I think probably we all agree that we do need a new government. And the way to do this is not to fight amongst ourselves. And it seems to me that, I know I wrote some stuff here, but I think I should just talk off the cuff actually rather than trying to read it. It seems to me that even amongst progressives, there are people who are absolutely dogmatic about their values, to the point of losing election after election for the sake of their brand name. But this is not doing us any good as citizens at all, because all it is doing is helping to ensure that the same tired old government stays in decade after decade. So, however, I'm a psychiatrist, by the way. It's the kind of doctor I am, and I've always thought that the House and the Ledge could have used some help in that regard. But, you know, sometimes you're doing couples therapy or family therapy, and a couple come in and one person's really keen to make change and to try to improve things. And one person is there because somebody said it would look good if you went. So it doesn't matter if one person wants things to work. The one person can pedal as hard as they like, but nothing is going to change when the other person's got the brakes on. So If we have a whole bunch of progressive parties that are more determined to defeat each other than to defeat the government in power, this is really not helpful for the average citizen of Alberta, and I would strongly like to suggest that we not do that. However, there are people in every party who are dogmatically married to that party and that brand, and they absolutely cannot see anything more than that. And today, actually, I have run for Liberals 4 times in this province, so I have a lot of experience about what it's like to be a Liberal on the doorstep. The first time was in 2004 for the Feds. Bad timing. You know, they say timing is everything. That was the scandal. Everybody remembers the scandal in Quebec with Liberal money. People called me a liar and a crook to my face. You know, people had never seen me before, didn't even know me, knew nothing. It was really bad timing to run for the Feds. And then I ran 3 times for the provincial Liberals. But I have been told to get off the porch numerous times, not with a gun. That used to happen years ago here, apparently. And I have been told that Liberal is a dirty word by a much older person than me, even. And I don't accept those beliefs, but I have to say, having heard it as often as I've heard it, I do wonder if branding is something that needs to be reconsidered, because even if brands are for cows, a lot of people are attached to them, and I think that it's worth considering whether the brand needs to change. I'd like to just talk a little bit about the real question here, which is, are more parties bad for Alberta or not? Well, I think the answer to that is it depends. Because personally, I think if a new party came along that could attract the imagination and enthusiasm of the 60% of Albertans who didn't vote, or even 20% of them, to add to the other progressives, that would be a great thing. I think if some party and some leader could arise de novo, that there's a place for that to happen. I don't think having 6, 8, or 10 parties is helpful at all in any way. But we're not getting anywhere, and we haven't been getting anywhere for 40 years now. So it's time to think about what the solution is. And I would say that if the solution is a new party and a new name, where there's a lot of enthusiastic people who want to get out and work for all Albertans, that would be a good thing. Otherwise, we have to somehow encourage, cajole, harass, whatever, the other 2 strong parties, or I guess there's 3 now, well, forget the Wild Alliance, anyway, into cooperating, because if they don't cooperate, we just go on doing the same thing over and over again, which is the definition of insanity, to keep on doing the same thing over and over again when it doesn't work. So I think that we have to find some solution, or else we progressives are going to be wandering in the desert for a whole lot longer, and 40 years seems like about long enough to me. So I don't want to say any more. I just really hope that we're going to have a lot of questions and a lot of discussion here this evening. Thank you.